And as you know, everything else is going to. So the tricky part is going live. And so going live requires 2 button pushes, and I have to do them in sequence. And if they don't work right, we could literally be live for like about 15 seconds until LinkedIn tells me that we're live. But if it doesn't within about 15 seconds, and it's gonna drop the call, and then I have to reset it. So ready, everybody, cross fingers. Okay, let's give this. You ready to give it? Ready to go? Let's give this a try.
We're ready.
Cool. So I think everybody is telling me that we're going live here. So Zoom's telling me we're going live, and yay, we are going live. Hello, LinkedIn. How are we doing? I'm here with Laura Van LaRusso. This is Steve Gamlin. And of course, this is Dr. Keith McNally. And we are live here on a Tuesday afternoon. It's good to have everybody. So we're doing it. We're doing it. We're doing it.
Yes.
It's good to have
We're
everybody on the
here.
call.
We're all happy.
So we have a special guest. So Laura and I have a special guest. Steve Gamlin is going to join us today because I asked him to talk about his coaching. So he's a coach and he does something special with the vision board, right, Steve?
That's true. Helping people to understand visualization, that's the biggest hurdle. And then helping
Right.
them to implement it, getting closer to their goals, hopes, and dreams. Yes.
So I just found out yesterday that Laura, and I don't do the vision board thing, so forgive me up front, but Laura does. She does one annually. So I thought that was a great introduction because you're going to talk us through what it is, how it works, and what we talked about on Coach's Corner, blue collar woo woo. So you got a lot to talk about, Steve.
I like that phrase.
Excellent.
So where do you want to get started?
You know, the biggest misconception, and that's usually where I start with people with regard to vision boards. And some people hear me mention vision boards. They go, oh, I went to a vision board party. There was wine, cheese, crackers, scissors, glitters, glue sticks, poster boards, magazines. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. So basically you ran through a mud puddle. It's very surface level. It doesn't dive deep. Nothing wrong with it. It's kind of like New Year's resolutions and goals. It's just to a degree. But so many people look at them, and I conducted a survey a number of years ago working with one of my mentors, and he said, let's test the pulse out there about vision boards. And one of the comments that came back, somebody said, it's very hard to differentiate them from a 4th grade art project. And I thought, oh,
Right.
I've
So
got
that
to
wouldn't be
teach it
good.
at a depth. That's not super positive, but the way that I come about it, and it's great that Laura does vision boards. Now, here's the great thing about vision boards. We can all teach and do them differently. I simply teach and coach what worked for me, putting my whole life back together.
Right.
Getting people to understand it's an extension of not only what we wish to create in our lives or achieve, but also the way I do it, the person you wish to become in the process is a big part of it. And I teach 8 major areas of life, standard life wheel stuff. Physical health, emotional well-being, your relationships, your core values, your faith, both guide you, by the way, your connection to the world in a real way, your business, your career, and your money. And that's where most people go, that seems like a lot. Well, it's all working 24/7. Wouldn't it be a good idea if you could see the best version of yourself in all of those? And that's where I start with people, is to get them to understand it's like an 8-legged spider, not just this one little pogo stick running, trying to go up a mountain.
Right. It's foundation work is what it is.
So Laura, how do you do your vision board? Does it look a lot like what he's talking about?
Well, first of all, I wanted to thank you so much for Keith's recommendation that you join us. And I like and not only like, but I believe in that vision board sort of planning. And you're so right that it does sort of look like in your mind, your initial reaction in your mind, it can seem as though it is just an elementary art project, but really it's so much more than that. And how I've learned to use them both professionally and personally. So professionally, as an ESL teacher in the traditional classroom, when I taught K to 12 and then even adult education and workforce development, nonprofit organizations, people who had been, they made bad choices in life. And so then once they were released from jail and they were able to then go into training programs and get good jobs and rejoin society, those are the same folks that had an awful lot of trouble articulating a lot of what they'd been through or choices they've made. And so we would create vision boards based on that to help them articulate their past, present, and future. That's how I would teach it. Like, who were you in the past? If you're comfortable, let's create. And I'm sorry, but yeah, we did use magazines. We used magazines. We did. I'm sorry, but they
Oh,
also,
no need to apologize. Go. There's some great pictures there.
yeah. And there were also images. They were allowed to bring photos in, family photos if they wanted to, anything they felt comfortable using to establish their past and their present and then their future goals. That was one population that the vision board strategy worked for. The other was more at the high school level, when I had students coming in who were I'd say low intermediate level English language learners. They don't have all that vocabulary yet, right? But they can still express themselves. And so they would express themselves by making vision boards. Tell me about your family. Tell me about your best friend. Tell me about your goals for the future. And they would create these boards. And then I would turn that into a presentation. Okay, great. Now you have to bring this board up to the front of the class. And in English, I want you to explain it to us. And then people would ask questions. So you're constantly encouraging communication. So that's my friend. And for me, just briefly, I use vision boards as of the pandemic, because I don't know about, well, imagine the rest of the world also, but I really went to like this deep depression, very deep depression. And I said, oh, this is not me. I'm very goal oriented, have a plan A, have a plan B, I'm a Girl Scout, like plan A, plan B, plan C. And I lost it. And so I said, well, I'll start making a vision board. And that's what I do now, just on a personal level, every January 1st for the new year. And I usually just turn it into a screensaver so that it's the first thing I see in the morning.
Yeah. Now, see, and that's a great step right there. People ask me all the time, what should I do with my vision board? Okay, I made my board. Now I'll come back the week after Christmas and see how I did. Oh my gosh, no. Put it where you can see it on a daily basis. I've got one of my clients, and she followed every instruction. She made it the wallpaper on her phone, the background of her phone. It's the wallpaper on her laptop and her tablets, her original board. And whenever I was doing a live event, if she was there, I would say, hey, Lisa, where's your vision board? And she would say, oh, it's in the bathroom. And everybody would laugh.
Right.
And I'd say, Lisa, why is it in your bathroom? She goes, hey, I'm there every day.
That's right.
So,
I can't miss it.
yeah, when she's doing her makeup and getting ready in the morning in her hair, she followed my instruction to a T. She says, I look at my board, I think of just one of my goals. And I ask myself, what one tiny step can I take in the right direction toward one goal today? And what it does is it reduces the overwhelm of staring up a mountain going, how am I going to get there? Momentum.
Well, isn't that really about goal planning, right? Right,
Yeah.
Keith? We have to see it before we can have it. And sometimes those things that we want to achieve, if we create vision boards, as you say, helps us see what we're dreaming for.
Well, now
Keith, what do you think?
Well, I'm really curious. I think both of you said, at least Steve said, you got to see it every day. Why is that important to see your vision board every day? Because the lady you said it was everywhere, her bathroom, her phone. Why is that important?
Being connected to where you've decided you want to go. It's kind of like the compass. It keeps you on track. It keeps you connected. The world does its best all day long to distract us, whether it's social media, the news, which is just a mind-sucking experience in a downward slope, cannonballing into a septic tank. That's the news's job. Is to keep us scared. I was in the media for 10 years, so I can say this.
Okay.
Oh, I believe you, because I can't watch it for more than 10 minutes without feeling really upset. So,
yeah. I tell people, look, if you got to watch the news, record it first, fast forward to the end, rewind 3 minutes, because that's when the one positive story is. And they go, and then just watch the rest later. So right about the
Right.
time the credits are rolling to see who does, provided the outfit for the anchors. Like, wait a second, I know the music's playing, but we got a positive story. That's my favorite part of the news,
Right.
is the positive thing. That's all I turn it on for. That and the weather
Right.
sometimes.
Right.
But we get distracted so easily because there's so much noise happening. So if we stay
Mhm.
connected to our board, our goals, hopes, dreams, the why behind it all, that's an important one. We
Mhm.
can increase the odds that we will stay on track and create better habits, create more momentum, and achieve more results.
So
Excellent.
is there something about literally seeing it? Because I know your blue collar woo woo talks about all of the five senses. You
Yeah.
see it,
Mhm.
touch it, smell it, taste it. It needs to be real
Yep.
in some way or another. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can connect emotionally to it, I mean, there are things on my boards. I look at it and I close my eyes and I'm already smiling. I'm smiling right now thinking about one of them.
Right.
It's tapping into the emotions. It's becomes hardwired into us. It's not just a wish. It is something that we've got a plan for. We understand our why, which your why is the gas in your tank.
Mhm.
It'll keep you going when things try to get in your way. Think
I
of the
completely
pandemic.
agree.
Laura, you mentioned the pandemic. The pandemic
Right.
was a clump of trees that fell across our paths as we're
Right.
trying to climb up a mountain. Now, if you know why you want what you want, and believe me, I'm a person who struggles with, if I go too long without human contact, if I get down, both my businesses got, steamrolled by the pandemic
Right.
because I owned two event-based businesses at the time.
Wow. Right.
You can either stare at the clump of trees, say, well, I guess it wasn't meant to be, and walk back to the bottom of the mountain. Or you can climb over, you can dig
Mm.
under. If you stop and think about it, here's the object that fell across our paths. If you
Right.
walk to the left or to the right, you'll eventually come to the cluster of roots or the treetop. So if you walk far enough, you can
Mhm.
get around it. Now, it may put you on a different path around different people. It
Mhm.
might actually be a better path.
Hmm.
So if you're willing to make the effort and stay focused on the top of that mountain, even if you can't see it for a little bit for all the big clump of trees, it's still there.
I
Will
agree.
you do what it takes to get back on track and put yourself back on the upward trajectory?
I just want to comment quickly here because I so resonate with this idea of getting onto a track that maybe you didn't expect and it ends up leading you to something even better than whatever you imagined.
Mhm.
Because I know that Keith and I are both very big supporters, pardon me, of resiliency, of transformation and resiliency. And we've all been through certain levels of disappointment, trauma, depression, whatever you want to call it. That's part of life, as well as the joy of life. And when those things happen, it's surprising to me that that closed door means that there's two other doors that are open. That's what I was just saying to Keith the other day. Whatever closed doors, don't worry about it. 'Cause one closed door, two open doors after that.
Mhm.
And I think your work helps people to see that in a tangible way and maybe even contribute to their action planning, if you will.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
how does it actually work? We're not going to go through a big coaching session, but Steve, when you're helping somebody set up the vision board, and like I said, I don't do it, so I'm not in the nuances of
Mhm.
how do you get started? Literally, I mean, how would you
Good
get
question.
started? And do I need to go and grab a magazine and cut out pictures, or how do I get started with this idea that I want to smell it, touch it, taste it,
Yep.
emotionally experience it?
Yep. The first thing I tell people is put down the scissors and the magazine. And,
Okay.
and I'll share the example of how I do it in the program that I created. There are 10 steps. You don't gather pictures till step 7 out of 10.
Wow.
Wow,
Everything else is
great.
internal work, and everything else is assessing where your life is right now in all those categories that I mentioned earlier, the 8 different categories that I work with. I have a life wheel graphic that I use.
Hmm.
And I'll ask people, what are your goals? And Keith, you also mentioned this as well. What do the goals look like, feel like, sound like, smell like, taste like? If you're not 100% happy or satisfied with the results of where you are in your life right now with any of these, was there a time in your life when you were, when these things were better than they are now?
Hmm.
What was that like? What were you doing with your time? What were your interests? What were your activities? Who were you hanging out with? Because a lot of people think, oh, I slid down the mountain. I'm at the worst time ever. They may be a couple of decisions and simple actions and simple connections away from getting to a better place. They've just allowed themselves inside to slide downward. So we start there. And then I ask them, okay, what's one goal for each one of these categories? Let's just start there.
I like that.
And then I'll ask, what does it look like? Da, 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 da. When you close your eyes, what does that look like? Okay, can we find a picture? Some people say, oh, I wish I was as healthy as I was 10 years ago. Great. Do you have a picture of yourself from 10 years ago? Yeah. Put that on your board. Because you're already emotionally connected to that. You look at that picture and you go, dang, I was sexy then. Good.
Darn,
I
I
had
look
more
so
hair
good.
than two.
Well, I had more hair too. I found a picture of myself the other day
I
from
could
my radio
walk.
days, and I go, "Wow, I had rock star hair back in the '90s when I was on the
Yeah.
radio." But
I was
hey,
hitchhiking stupidly, but I had fun.
well, there you go. So you put a picture of a thumb, somebody
Yeah.
hitchhiking on the side of a road. But the
Right.
favorite place you ever went to, like, what was the favorite state or location or highway you ever went to? Find a picture of their sign. Put your
Right.
thumb in front of the picture. Take a picture of the picture and your thumb. Put that on your board because it taps you emotionally into a great place. Don't do what a lot of these success gurus say. Don't slap a picture of a Lamborghini, a yacht, a mansion, a private jet, a
Oh
helicopter,
God, I hate that.
a big
Yeah.
honking piece of jewelry, and in a vault full of gold bars or pallets of cash. That's the trap that a lot of people fall into. There's no emotion there.
Right. Well, the
So,
emotion is misdirected. I think.
well,
Yeah.
and I was going to say, so there has to be emotional connection to your goals. Is that what you're saying?
The
Without
way I
that, it's
teach it,
not
yes.
okay. Okay. So without that, you're, and my thinking is without that internal emotional connection,
Mhm.
emotional, spiritual, whatever you want to speak to it,
Mhm.
there is no connection to it. And so you're less likely to want to achieve it. Am I thinking right?
The way I teach it, yes. That's why I always disclaim it by the way I teach it. I never say that my program is the program.
Well, we're
It's
going to
actually
sell it as
just,
the program.
it reflects, well, thank you. It reflects the way I put my own life back together 21 years ago.
Right.
After
Mhm.
blowing it into a million pieces, I mean, I literally demolished my life.
Mhm.
And then I started
It
to learn
happens.
the most basic steps of visualization. Didn't buy anybody else's program. Took a
Mhm.
little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, put it together. And when somebody asked me to teach them, I went back to my journals and wrote this all out. And the emotional connection is one of the most important things. My first 2 vision boards,
Right.
I made 2 at the same time because I wanted so many things because I was broke as heck and had blown my life to bits.
Right.
There was only one thing on there I was emotionally connected to, and it's the only goal I achieved. I built the recording studio. Everything
Well,
else was just
the
stuff.
infamous Muhammad Ali once said, "All you have to do is start over."
Yeah.
So, that's what happens. It's like you're brought down to your knees and you think that, you think you have nothing left. I mean, I don't want to go over those experiences here, but
Mhm.
certainly I have quite a share of them. So shocking events that happen that I never expected. And you're brought to your knees. But what do? Well, you take a deep breath and you start again, right?
Mhm.
But how? With support from people like you, for example. That's great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pick
Yeah.
the right heroes. That's what I encourage people to do. The
Yeah.
right mentors, the right heroes, the right coaches, the right examples. Pick the good ones, please.
Right. But in order to know who the good ones are, you have to know your purpose and your passion.
Mhm.
What is the reason that you're asking for that help?
Yeah.
For me, and I want to give Keith a chance here also. But as a communication coach, I feel that it's not just about teaching you good presentation skills and English communication skills. It's about increasing your confidence and for you as the person, my client, to know your purpose. That I'm going to stand in this room and I'm going to command attention, not in an obnoxious way, but in a way that just my authority just comes right off of me. I have so much authority and I instill so many others with confidence in themselves. And that is my purpose. It's not just to hear my own voice, but to transfer that feeling of security to another person through English communication coaching, for example, right? Because you could learn grammar anywhere, you could.
Yeah.
So, Keith, please.
Well, your conversations about personal transformation, and I think it was just Steve, your most recent motivational firewood conversation with somebody in Australia. He was an Australian, but he wasn't in his native country.
Yes.
And he found himself in a really awkward situation and decided that that was never going to happen again. And so I listened to that story. I listened to your conversation, and I'm going to put the link to that conversation when I post this to YouTube.
Thank you.
So I'm thinking those kind of stories are really what make the need for the vision board a reality, because you could then see it, touch it, and then focus in on it, because it becomes your passion, it becomes your desire, and you're connected to it emotionally. Steve, these are really quick conversations. So tell our watching, listening audience today, one, how they can get in touch with you, and two, the power of the vision board, please.
Yeah, you can find me nice and easy all across social media and also at my website, which is stevegamlin.com. And that's Gamlin, Gamlin. And the biggest thing I encourage people to do, understand all those parts of your life. They're working together to support you like bricks in a foundation. Treat them all with kindness, respect, creativity, confidence, passion, and they'll give you something solid to stand on.
Cool.
Right.
I love it. Well, this has
I
been
love it
another
too.
edition of Coach to Coach with Laura Van Russo and Dr. Keith McNally. And of course, our guest here, Steve Gamlin. We'll see you next week. LinkedIn, take care.
Thank
Bye.
you.